I've been to Goldmyer twice and one time I got lost, so I'm making this video as a guide for anyone that wants to go there for the first time. And this video is made to be as useful as possible, so there's chapters below that go to different topics that you might need to know on your trip. And like I said, I've tried to go twice and only made it once because there's some twists and turns that you have to take to get there. And if you take the wrong one, you might end up going an hour and a half in the wrong direction and then run out of time to go to the hot spring. So let's get into it. Goldmyer is a hot spring in Washington. It's just off of exit 34. There's 3 pools. There's one cave that fits a few people, and then there's a small pool that you could squeeze like 2 people in, and then there's another pool, lower pool, that you could probably fit, 4 people sitting somewhat comfortably, and then there's another cold pool. So it's not a huge place. It's a wilderness preserve that's been managed for over 45 years by the Northwest Wilderness Programs nonprofit. Only 20 people can visit a day, and only once a week can you book the entire place all at once. And they do a lot to try to prevent overcrowding so that people that really want to go can make it. There are ways to volunteer to earn free visits or even potentially stay on there for 6 months at a time. And they do accept donations in addition to a very affordable stay. It was about $30 a person to go to the hot springs. Now, before you go, there is a really thorough website that I definitely recommend checking out, and that's where you find the link for the reservations, and you also find the calendar. You do need a reservation. You can just show up, but it actually books up a lot. So especially on the weekends and during busier times of the year, you could be turned away, and you have to check in with the camp host that's there. And like I said, there's only 20 spots a day. They release it a month at a time. You can either go for the day, and on certain times and days you can actually stay in camp. So once you find the weekend that you have time off, you actually have to call to make a reservation. You can't do it online. And when you call, you actually have to call first and leave a message with your name and information, and then they call you a day or 2 later. So you want to be watching your phone for when they call. Then once they call, they ask how many people are in your party. Even though you can't book the entire place, you can book multiple spots all at once. And they will ask the names of the other people, and they really want to know if anyone's been there, I think, for how thoroughly they explain to you how to get there. And they do keep records of how often you've been there. So for example, when I went with my friend, they could look back and see, just based on her first and last name, that she had been there a few months ago. And then they send you an email with a waiver that you have to fill out and send back. And that email also has all the really thorough driving instructions that I definitely recommend to look at, very detailed. They kind of stagger the people throughout the day, so there's some overlap, but if there's like 12 people there, it maybe feels a little bit crowded. So I would suggest they're getting earlier. When I went, I was the first one there. We got there right before 9, and we had the place to ourselves for about an hour before anyone got there. But then it filled up, not filled up, but there was probably like 8 or so people there by the time we left. And it's small enough, like you have places to sit, but if you want to like go to the next pool, you kind of have to squeeze around each other. So I would try to get there as early as I can to get that extra time. There's hot pools, and there's a cold pool, and there's a creek that's right there. It's kind of a river, and they do have some caution signs. I think there's a section that seems pretty safe, but if you do venture into that, please be very, very careful. It is a natural rushing feature. It's not a water park, and you're proceeding at your own risk. And in the winter, it does get pretty icy, so really be aware of that as well. When you get up there, there is like a covered cabana where you can hang your stuff and change where it's dry, and there's benches, but there's not a ton of covered area, but there is plenty for your stuff, and it is right by the hot spring, so you don't have to get undressed and walk too far. It's really like right there. Down the trail a ways, there is a picnic area. What I wish I would have done is like eat some snacks at the picnic area before I went in the hot springs, because when it was winter, I didn't feel like getting out of the hot, warm water and then going all wet and cold to snack like I thought, and then come back. It was kind of, once I was gonna get out and be wet and cold, I just wanted to go. So if you do have snacks, I'd probably do the hike to get there, eat some snacks, and then go into the hot springs. Additionally to that, there are toilets there, one at the main cabin that's about a quarter mile from the pools. And then there's another toilet closer to the pools, but it is a little ways. So I would definitely recommend stopping at the toilet to use it before you walk over to the pools, and get changed and get all wet, rather than having to get out, get dressed, walk to the toilet, and then come all the way back. It's a lot easier if you just do it before you go to the pools. And there is the volunteer cabin, so if you really need some assistance in some way, you can go ask them for whatever help that you need or any questions while you're there. And the bathrooms, they are stocked with toilet paper, so you don't necessarily need to bring your own, though I would say you probably should always just bring toilet paper just in case. And that brings me to what to bring. Now, it's kind of a journey to get there, so I definitely recommend bringing water and food or snacks. I would recommend bringing like something substantial, like a sandwich, rather than just like some chips or something. But you know, you're having your own journey, but it is a bit of a ways. And I also wish that I would have brought some more delicious beverages. I only brought water, but being there in the hot springs, I really would have liked like a cold coconut water, some type of delicious juice. Definitely bring a towel. And I also would potentially bring flip-flops, because that's way easier to walk to the bathroom or the picnic table than like having to try to get your boots back on, depending on the season too. And it's like there's rocks all around, so if you're gonna do any walking around, or Crocs, big fan of Crocs. But you don't actually need that much, and the hot springs itself is clothing optional, so you don't even need to bring a bathing suit. Even if you forget, you're all right. You got all the things that you need. Now to the big challenge, getting there. So as I mentioned before, you do need a reservation, and then you get your email, which has all your instructions. I'm not going to go thoroughly into the driving instructions, because you really need to bring the email or look at the email, save it on your phone so you know which way, because Google Maps won't get you there. It will get you to exit 34 and potentially to the Middle Fork trailhead, but then you're on dirt roads and forest roads for a significant amount of time. It's not that far from Seattle, it's about 45 minutes. But you go out Highway 90 and you take exit 34 and you go towards the Middle Fork, and it's mostly paved the whole way until you get closer to the Middle Fork Snoqualmie River, and then it turns into a dirt road. From the highway, it's about 10 or 15 minutes on pavement, but then you get to the dirt road, and then it's another hour to 2 hours on a dirt road that you do need a high clearance vehicle for. Now, I know you want to go there in your Subaru, and maybe you could make it, but there are some significant potholes along the way. I definitely wouldn't be super comfortable in a low clearance car, and even in some Subarus, you'd have to be really careful to navigate some of the significant potholes. So we were lucky enough that there wasn't snow on it, but you are in the mountains, and there is a risk of snow. So you can, again, look at the website or look at any sort of weather report or road condition. There's an access report, so you can see what it's going to be like, what people have experienced. I recommend bringing a shovel, potentially a chainsaw, or somehow to get yourself out. And when you're on the dirt road, there's no phone service. Finally, you get to the end of the dirt road and there is a trailhead parking lot. Now, this is where I went wrong. When I went there the first time, it's a trailhead, so we went up the trailhead, but you're actually supposed to go at the end of the parking lot. There is a access road gate, and you're actually supposed to go down the access road. Skip the trailhead, go down the access road. Now, when you get to the trailhead, there is a porta potty, so if you need to use the bathroom, and then there's another 1.5 to 3 hour hike along the access road to the hot springs. Now, the pro tip is to bring a bike. It's a pretty nice access road, so even if it's just a gravel bike, you're gonna make it. But you know, mountain bike's probably the nicest, but even just a gravel bike or even a BMX bike, you're gonna get there, and that can cut it in half pretty much. So on a bike, potentially 45 minutes to an hour and a half. If you're hiking, it's an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending how quickly you're going and what the conditions are like. It's a really beautiful hike along the trail. There are a couple turns, but they have made little wood signs. You get to this one and you go to the right, and then you get to this one and you also go to the right. And then you cross a bridge and there's another fork. You take a right, there's signs that go up to Goldmyer Hot Springs. It's a little ways further after this bridge. And then when you get there, you'll see the volunteer cabin, and you actually have to ring the bell to get their attention to check you in. They'll kind of go over a pretty simple spiel. They'll have you sign the waivers in person, and then they'll send you on your way. Now at the cabin, there's a bathroom there. There's a picnic table there, but there's also close to the hot spring, there's another bathroom and another picnic table. It's about another quarter mile up past the volunteer cabin, and it's actually funny because it's maybe the hardest part about the hike, because there's just a little bit of an incline, but it's not too long, and you should be there before you know it. And then you're there and you're at the hot springs, you're having a good time. I hope this all made sense. I make a bunch of other videos and guides, so if you want to get into something new, check those out. I really appreciate the support. If you want to like and subscribe, it really does help, or potentially use one of my links. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a lot out of it, and I'll see you in the next video.